Welcome to Significant Brothers. I'm Cray.
I'm Brad.
I'm Chase.
And today we are talking about the Settlers of Catan, or Catan. So I chose this topic because we all love Settlers of Catan, and we think it is one of the best board games. If you have a choice between Monopoly or Settlers of Catan, we choose the latter. In fact, if we have a choice between Monopoly and Death, we'd also choose the latter.
I like Monopoly.
I actually like it a lot too.
Yeah, it's all right. I just never play with the good rules, I don't think.
You gotta play with the actual rules. People add all their house rules, and that's why the game goes on forever.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's not often I want to play a game for a week straight.
So on top of being a game, The Settlers of Catan is actually a novel written by Rebecca Gable. So at this book convention, Klaus Teuber approached Rebecca Gable.
Klaus Teuber is the guy who invented the game.
Yes, Klaus had already read a novel by her before, and he really liked it, and he said, this is the person who should write the lore behind Settlers of Catan. This was around 2000, they started collaborating, and then 3 years later, she came out with this novel. Which I don't know why that sounds quick to me, but that sounds like a pretty quick time to publish a book. So,
especially a book that's 700 pages long.
Yes, it's a very long book. If anyone is planning on reading this book, spoilers ahead. You probably want to shut off the podcast now, or just skip ahead.
Can I leave right now while you talk?
No, you guys have to go through spoilers. I read the entire Wikipedia synopsis of it, so I'm basically an expert. So, in the novel, the people that the story focuses around are Norse, and it's around 850 AD. And it's, of course, all fictional, but it's kind of like historical fiction, I guess. So these people believe in this legend of Catan, and the story goes that Odin was walking through the land of fairies, as one does at night, and he saw this beautiful daughter of the fairy king called Tinuri. Her name means the daughter of starlight, which that'll be important later. So Odin is, he's making some advances on her. He's saying like, hey, you should be with me. And then she's like, hey, I'm sort of betrothed to someone else. And then he's like, well, if you unbetroth yourself to that person, I will make you happy for the rest of your days. And she says, you have to make me a land that is perfect. And then I will break off my marriage and I will be with you. So Odin makes the perfect Settlers of Catan game board. This isn't in the book, but it basically sounds like a game board. The way it's described is he created.
So he invited her over and just laid all the tiles out. He's like, "You like what you see?"
Look at this board game I made.
She's like, "Oh, this is great."
He was like, there's plenty more where this came from. I can lay the tiles like this anytime.
Yeah.
Turns out Odin is just this neckbeard stay at home in his basement. Like, yeah. I made this for you.
Have you played Cities and Knights? I also have Seafarers. But he creates this land of lush pastures, so the best for sheep, mountains with minerals, ore, and, well, clay's not really a mineral, but we can assume it's there. And also expansive forests, for all the better for trading wood with. And then she sees it, and she says it's lacking snow, which apparently symbolizes purity. So he's like, okay, and then he summons a big old flock of white ravens and lands at her feet. He's like, look at, these are white. And then she's like, okay, but this place is missing sorrow, which would complete the perfection of the balance between good and evil. So she rejects. Yeah, I don't get the logic either.
Yeah.
But she's a fairy daughter, so obviously wiser than us.
I think it's just like, how else am I supposed to know that I'm this happy unless there's other people suffering to compare it to?
Exactly. You can't be happy unless someone else is suffering right alongside of you. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think happiness is contagious, but... So, Tinuri left Odin and because I had no sorrow, and then he grieved over the island. So then there was sorrow. But it was too late. She already left him. So he put the land out in the sea so no mortal could ever get to it. So that's where we start our story. So these people in a place called Ellisund, and I'm going to call them Ellisunders. And they're basically in a place, they have drought, they have winter, they have people attacking their villages, and people in the village are like, we gotta get out of this place to a new, better place. And this guy named Olaf is like, hey, one time I was out in the sea and I got caught in this 12-day storm, and I found such a place that has no winter or drought. Would you guys like to come on a bunch of boats with me? And also a witch was like, got an oracle or something, was like, yeah, you guys should all go out there. It's a really good idea. So, from Elisund, leaves their original place.
Sure.
So, on their way there, or I'm not sure exactly what their game plan is at this point because they have to experience a storm and able to get to this place. Mm-hmm. But they stop at this place called the Cold Islands. And the king there, they say, hey, would you like meat and mead for some wool? And the king says, yeah, 2 wool for some mead. And then they said, no, we have the wool and we want your mead. And then he's like, oh, okay.
Never mind. Oh, that's funny.
So, something that we do in basically all of our games.
Yeah,
part of the lore.
Wait, was that a joke?
I made up that part.
Oh, I thought it was in there, and I was so excited.
No, I saw in the synopsis like they're trading. I'm like, oh, that'd be funny. Yeah. But
I'm like disappointed.
The mead is actually poisoned, and the king really just wants to raid their ships. So the king's wife actually warns all the Elisunders, and then they take his wife, and they get away before they're all poisoned. So, one thing leads to another. They get through a storm, and then they basically crash land on Catan. And you know what they find there?
3 other groups of people.
Oh, that'd be good.
It would be good, but they actually find a flock of white ravens, just like in the story in the Legend of Catan.
Oh.
What?
Earlier when I said Odin didn't have snow, so he sent a flock of white ravens to Tanuri. You remember that part of the story?
Yes.
I said it like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, okay. So a bunch of white ravens.
Yeah, so they're like, surely this must be Catan, and it was. And basically the rest of the story is a bunch of conflict and like religious strife and other things, but an interesting part is it tells how the band of robbers was formed. So, you remember that guy Olaf I mentioned in the beginning of the story who said he knew how to get to this place?
Yeah.
Well, there's this group of like Elisunders, which I guess we can now call Catanians. So, this Olaf guy, they sort of stumbled upon him in the forest, and he was raping his slave. So, they said, hey, you're going to be put to death for that. So
I'm sorry, was he a part of the Elisund before?
Yeah, he was.
So they brought slaves over?
Yeah, they had slaves with them. And then in the night, he was tied around a tree, and they're like, we're going to do this in the morning. We're going to execute you later. And his son freed him. So him and his son and like a bunch of other people basically went off into the desert, and they formed their band of robbers. And then throughout the story, they're just consistently raiding people's villages and taking their resources. So...
Oh, holy cow.
Yeah. So that's the story of Catan. So, Chase, you have a few little facts about Toiber.
There are only a few important things to know about Catan, and one of them is that the guy who created its name was Klaus Teuber. Now he is a professional board game maker.
Oh. What does that entail?
Oh, man. Well... making board games.
Like this,
what a stupid question.
So how involved is he with other board games that aren't Catan or Catan related?
A lot of his stuff is Catan now, because they make a lot of expansion packs, and they made... there's actually a lot of expansion packs that like I wasn't familiar with.
So there's more than Seafarers.
Citizen. There's one about Vikings. There's another one where the box is purple, and I have no idea what it was. I don't know. I just kind of like checked out because Cities and Knights I think is the most popular one, and for good reason. I think it's a lot of fun, but I've actually never played any of the other ones. But do we have a guess at what he was before he was a board game maker? Because you don't go to college looking to make board games.
Was he a writer?
No. He was a dentist. He went to school to study chemistry. And when he graduated from high school, I don't know if this is the way they do it in Germany now, but there's like back in the day in the 70s you had mandatory military service. So he would hang out in the barracks a lot with his wife and his kid. And so I think he served 3 years in the military, so he needed to keep them entertained in some way. And the child was illiterate because it was a child. And so he's like, I'll make some board games for them to play. So he made some board games. And then he went on to be a dentist, and he had the dentist practice with his dad. And in the middle of this, like, he'd go there, and then he'd, like, go home from work and just work on board games. And it took him 7 years to make his first board game.
What was the first board game?
Yeah, the first board game was a game called Barbarossa and the Riddle Masters. And it was, he read a book called, I think it was called, like, The Riddle Masters or something, and it was about this shape-shifting being that tried to trick people with shape-shifting stuff. This game was essentially just making something out of clay and then having the people that you're playing with guess what you made.
Okay, so it's like Pictionary?
Yeah, or there was a game, I remember there was a piece of clay that you had to do that in, but...
Cranium?
Yeah, I think it was Cranium. And so it didn't sound like a good board game to me, but it won the Spiel des Jahres, which is Game of the Year in Germany.
Huh.
The pretty much, I'd say the most prestigious award in Germany for board games, but it's also probably the most prestigious award in the world because there's been a lot of good board games that come out of Germany. It's like the Hollywood of...
Of board games?
I'm trying to think. It's like where
Douglas Bubble-Trout of board games.
It's like if you were going to be, if you wanted to be a software person, you'd go to Silicon Valley. If you want a good respect for board, Germany turns out a lot of good board games. So, but eventually, well, he ended up winning several of these other awards for games he created. One of which is called the Settlers of Catan, and he also won the in 1995 he won the Game of the Year for Settlers of Catan, and then in 1996 he won it in the U.S. And you might be wondering, what's the difference between a successful game and a game that wins Game of the Year? And that's the difference between selling maybe about 10,000 units for a successful game, pretty good.
Yeah.
Or if you are a winner, typically they sell around 500,000 copies of the game.
Holy cow.
So consider a game like Catan where it's like $50 for the board game. Like, it's pretty good.
Board games are expensive.
They are really expensive. Like very quality board games.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so he made Catan very successful in the first few years, especially in Germany and the U.S. And he went to a convention because he read a book called Fortuna's Smile by Rebecca Gables.
Oh.
And he went, which was essentially a book about settling colonies in England. And so he read this and he's like, this is pretty good. I wonder if she could write a book for me, for my game. Because she kind of has this genre down. So, I think the book actually did come out in 2000. So, off of this book that she wrote about the game that he made 2 games based off of the book.
Really?
2 role-playing games, one called Candemir, the other one called Elisund.
Oh, no way!
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the role-playing games, it actually, Olaf's in it, and so you interact with characters from the book.
Okay. And Candemir is one of the main characters.
Yeah. So one of them is about settling Catan, and the other is about dealing with stuff in Catan, after... I think Candemir is the one about dealing with characters and there's already settlements there. So I don't know the extent. Catan's probably, at least in this era, one of the most popular board games. Most people and interact with probably have played it.
I would say it's the weed of board games. I'd say it's a gateway into getting other people to expanding their board game wants and needs.
Okay. I think a lot of people disagree about the concept of a gateway drug, but I get where you're coming from.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a gateway board game. Probably I put it above Ticket to Ride. I feel like that's also kind of it's a gateway game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So most board game makers, they don't really do making board games full time. Like for Klaus, it was a thing he just did after he got home from work. But he's now going full time, and like so he just either makes board games or lives off of the proceeds. But it's like certainly not something he's running out of his basement anymore. But he also plays Catan online. Like they have like you can play online with people.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he used to tell people who he was. Like, I'm Klaus Teuber, but he said people wouldn't trade with him anymore if they knew, so he just doesn't tell people who he is. But also on the Catan website, there's a blog, so he has some entries that he's written about Catan and his inspiration. So, like, he would talk about, like, how when he was a kid, the reason that he wanted to do this because he found, like, Norse mythology very interesting, but, like, Vikings in general, and so he'd, like, play with, like, Viking dolls and, like, kind of keep a narrative with them. And I think when he was making the game, when the idea of like tiles came up, but like just the resources that were there, he read about what Iceland was like, so he kind of designed the board after Iceland and like the Vikings settling Iceland. So that was kind of his inspiration because he thought that the idea of coming to like just a completely untouched, pristine island that nobody had ever been to was pretty cool. So yeah. That's kind of why
That's
he did
interesting.
it. Yeah, so Klaus Teuber. I guess he's interesting.
All right, Brad. What startling facts did you find out about the competitive gaming of Settlers of Catan?
Is there any doping?
There is.
What scandals are there?
How much did you guys know about the presence of Catan tournaments around the world before?
I knew they existed. A roommate of mine has competed in some.
Really?
Yeah.
I had an extremely difficult time finding out how to get into officially sanctioned tournaments so that you can go to Worlds.
Go to Worlds.
Worlds, like the World
Championship?
World Championship.
Oh, I see.
Oh, okay.
The World Championship for Catan is held every other year. And then between that, Germany hosts one of the years, and then United States holds with the other ones because we're the biggest players of Catan, I guess. Obviously, Germany because it's a German game. And
It's the Hollywood of board games.
And U.S. because it just took off here. But sadly, we're ranked 5th in the world in terms of the overall leaderboards of Catan.
Who are we behind?
England.
England's one of them.
South
Denmark.
Korea.
No.
The Netherlands.
Netherlands are number 2. How did you know?
These seem like places where the game would be popular. Italy.
Yep.
Austria.
No.
Darn it.
It's like Italy, Germany, UK or England, Netherlands. I think in terms of current rankings, Germany's number 1. But I think in the grand scheme of everything, like in terms of total games played, if you look at it from forever, Italy's number 1. But there's not a whole lot that changes between competing in the tournaments and just playing it like regular real life. There's referees at the games. You can call them if you think there's a rule break and they go over, they decide the final thing. But I feel like in a lot of board games, if you can get away with it and no one notices, but they notice later, it's too late.
Yeah, I wonder what... Although a lot of rule breaking in that seems pretty unambiguous.
Yeah, you have to keep your cards up on the table at all times so everyone can see. If you ask someone how many cards they have, you have to say how many cards you have.
Are you serious?
Oh.
Okay, because I actually play with some people, and like some people like base where they're gonna put the thing on, and they're like, how many cards do you have? And I always say I don't have to tell you, but.
Well, I think that's tournament rules.
Right, I was gonna say
It's
I guess
not
nowhere
in the rule books.
Okay, well, I'm gonna continue doing that then.
And so obviously there's a championship structure. And in terms of the final World's Championship, where one country sends their best player.
Really?
Yeah, they send 1 or 2 players.
Wow.
Oh.
The championship competition is structured in 3 rounds. The qualifying round, the 42 contestants each play 4 games. Then out of the top 16 players advance to the semifinals, where they are seeded based on wins, points, and quality of victory. You're going to have a higher quality of victory If you win with 10 points and everyone else finishes with 6, then if you win with 10 points and everyone finishes with 9, you beat them better.
Oh, okay.
That's the higher quality of victory.
I thought it was like a style of how they did it.
This guy did it with his eyes closed and wore his baseball cap backwards, so he looked sick.
+2.
But you said it was quality of victory. What else were the other?
Your wins.
Sure.
So total points and then quality of victory. The qualifying round games. That's how you get seeded, and it can also be used as tiebreakers. But once you get closer, there's not really as much need for tiebreakers.
Sure.
And then the winners of the 4 semifinal matchups face off in the finals, and that is played on a custom-made, oversized version of the board.
That sounds awesome. Now, do they do any? Is it just plain Catan, or do they do expansions?
It's just Catan. Catan vanilla. I'm personally of the opinion, I think playing with Cities and Knights is the best way to play the game.
Yeah.
But I've played with people that don't like it.
Yeah.
We're not roommates anymore. Yeah, but there's nothing super crazy wild. There's no drama. There's
no doping.
So that is the drama and the excitement that is Catan tournaments.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. If you want to email us anything whatsoever, you can email us at sigbrotherspod@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at significantbros.
And if you want to keep up with all of our significant happenings in a newsletter form, you can go to tinyletter.com/significantbrothers to subscribe.
And if you're like, hey, how do we actually listen to you guys, besides clicking on the Facebook link, you can find all of our episodes on iTunes and Podbean. Just search Significant Brothers.
And if you have any podcasting apps, you can just search for us there, and you can probably find us and subscribe.
Probably.
Whoa, guys, I just rolled some dice, and you owe me 3 sheep.
Aw, shucks.
You good, Chase?